What is up, Gator baseball fans? We are live at Gator Diamond Pod. I'm Adrian Perez with my co-host Neil Shulman from In All Kinds of Weather. You can reach me at Gator Diamond Pod. Reach Neil at All Kinds Weather. Today's show, like I said, we're live. Instant reaction to Florida State. We're gonna have it. We're gonna have some not so good recap of the Alabama series in Tuscaloosa. We're going to do a preview of Arkansas coming up this weekend. We're going to have it right here, this show, jam-packed. So let's get to it, man. Neil, you ready to go, buddy? How you doing, man?
Let's do it. I'm a little, not going to lie, I'm a little depressed about basketball, but you know what? They had a great run last year to the national title. I was in Tampa. I got to see history. I saw Ollie Rue become the tallest player at 7'9" ever scored an NCAA tournament game. The Gator baseball series was a weird one because I was making plans to go see people in Ocala and Gainesville and Tampa. And then I went to the softball game where another stickball team we can talk about beating number 1 Tennessee 2 out of 3. But so I kind of had my eye on the baseball series as the games progressed, and it started bad and it just got worse from there. Adrian, the Gators losing the series in very, very frustrating fashion, I think it's fair to say. Now, we've seen some craziness in college baseball. We saw Tennessee, Georgia, the quote-unquote ghost walk-off where the guy slams the bat down only for it to die in the warning track. We saw some weird stuff happen between Auburn and Texas with a ball just going right through the center fielder's legs and a routine single that scores 3 runs. So certainly it's not like Florida's the only team to take a very devastating loss on the baseball diamond, but getting no hits got to be up there in terms of some of the most humiliating, frustrating, enraging, whatever adjective you want to use. Just one of the worst ways to lose possible. So let's start there, Adrian. Friday night, Gators are no hit by Alabama. It's the second week in a row that the Gators are almost no hit by the Friday guy. South Carolina almost does the no-hit job on Florida last week. South Carolina, of course, currently such a dumpster fire that they got rid of their coach 4 games into the SEC season. So that's not exactly a great measuring stick for Florida. Gators go and face another team in Alabama that just got swept by Kentucky. And Adrian, the score of 6-0, it may as well have been 16-0 or 56-0 because this offense just did not look like it was ready to go.
You know, we talked about that too, about the South Carolina coach not getting to the end of the season, and he barely got to the end of the week. So that was pretty pathetic there on our part. But listen, the storyline here, man, obviously game 1, you got no hit. That was the storyline. 1963, the last time Florida was no hit in a 7-inning ball game by the University of Jacksonville was what I was able to research. Tyler Fay. We talked about Tyler Fay. You mentioned it a little bit there also. That was 3 straight weekends in a row that Florida struggled mightily against the Friday night starter. Right. And all 3 guys, either the week after or the week before, struggled themselves against the teams that they went up against. So it's like almost like, you know, Florida became like the get-right game for these 3 pitchers. That's the High Point pitcher, South Carolina pitcher, and now Fay. So that's not good. All right, that's not good. We'll talk about more about that later, about Florida's hitting woes. But Tyler Fay, man, he went 9 innings. I mentioned it on the preview during the basketball podcast yesterday. Listen, it's very rare in college baseball to get a solo no-hitter. You know, pitchers in college baseball just are not, you know, they're just not good enough yet to be proficient with their pitch count. So it's usually, when you see a no-hitter in college baseball, it's usually, you know, 3-4 pitchers normally. But this guy went 132 pitches to get this no-hitter. No hits, no runs, 2 base on balls, 13 strikeouts, man. Sully on the post game, he lamented that the guy seemed passive at the plate, let a lot of good pitches, you know, go, lacked aggressiveness. So he wasn't very happy. I mean, how could you be? You got no hit. Liam, not his best outing. Not that it probably would have mattered, right? But he went 5 innings, gave up 9 hits, 6 runs, couple base on balls, and 4 strikeouts and 98 pitches total. So basically, there's nothing to talk about on the offensive side, obviously. Just a lot of uncompetitive at bats, a lot of weak contact against a guy in Fay who, I'll be honest with you, he's not going to be making any all SEC teams. Well, maybe not before this, but now you have a no-hitter on your record. Heck, you might be talked about if he has an okay season on some all SEC teams, but this guy was in no means a preseason all SEC guy. So very disappointing game 1 Friday, and you got no hit. You lost 6-0, and now you try and go into Saturday. I tweeted out that the best thing about getting no hit is that it means absolutely nothing the next day in reality. But let's see if that held true or not, Neil.
Yeah, let's just time travel 18 hours ahead and see what happens the next day. And just by clicking on this little magic button on our back-end software here that we run the show on, it didn't go any better in game 2. Alabama gets the second game. They get the series. Just very quickly, going back to the first game for 1 second, I talked about this before. This is probably one of the few talking points that I don't think you have mentioned yet. The fact that Liam Peterson is frequently going into the high 80s or 90s in terms of his pitch count in the 4th or 5th inning consistently, even if he doesn't give up any hits or runs. That's still a problem. Because you've talked about this in previous years too, about setting up your bullpen, setting up the pitching situation for the weekend. If you're going to be the Friday night guy, you got to get through 6 at a minimum, preferably 7.
Yeah.
But that just can't happen, Adrian. You just can't keep leaving games in the 4th or 5th inning like this.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that's why I've used that term with Liam before about leaving some meat on the bone. Because he doesn't, oftentimes go deep into games because, unfortunately, he just always seems to have a lot of 3-2 counts, and he's a strikeout pitcher. And unfortunately, when you're a strikeout pitcher, you're usually using a lot of pitches to do that. In comparison, Aiden King is more of a contact type of pitcher. Old school guy for University of Florida. One of the best contact type of pitchers that I remember was Hudson Randall. Baseball, Gator baseball fans listening to this podcast especially will know that name. Hudson Randall could go, 8 innings with no problem. He'll have 80 pitches through 8 innings. Why? Because he pitches to contact.
Pitches to soft contact.
Yeah, that too. But that's not Liam's game. So it's something he's going to have to work on, obviously, and he will. And as you progress through the minor league system and hopefully into the big leagues for him, they will coach him up on that a lot, on pitching to more contact to get outs, to not go so deep into ball games with such, to not be able to go deep into ball games because of your pitch count. So it's something he's going to have to work on. I don't know if it's going to be solved, obviously, the remainder of this year, his junior year, which will more than likely be his last. So it's just something that we're going to have to deal with, and Sully's going to have to deal with. Luckily, we have a very good bullpen.
We do. And, there was a game this weekend where it didn't look so great. But, yes, that's one game. That's one data point. The totality of the data tells us that this is a very good bullpen. But, yeah, on Liam Peterson, 98 pitches in 5 innings. I don't care if hit them. You're not going to survive the game because you can't be expected to replicate that pace for another 4 innings. That's going to put you at, Fay wound up throwing 131 or so. So Peterson does that. He's essentially, we're going to call it 20 pitches an inning, right? For 98 pitches in 5 innings. So you're going to tell him to throw 180 pitches. I don't see how he gets to another inning the way that Sully likes to protect arms. And we've seen Sully protect arms in the biggest of situations. Like, you want to go back to the 2022 regional against Oklahoma. He refuses to use Brandon Sproat in that final game 7 against Oklahoma in Gainesville when everything was on the line. So he's sure as hell not going to put his pitcher's arms at risk in a relatively meaningless situation like this, the second SEC series of the year, which Florida wound up losing the next day. The Gators didn't look a whole lot better in terms of what we got on the mound. The offense did score 4 runs, but I mean, 8-4 was the final score. Alabama just battering the ball around, doing whatever they wanted to offensively with 8 hits, a couple of them of the extra base variety. Justin LeBron hit one for, I don't know, how far was that? 438 feet or so. Not Aiden King's day for sure, but again, Adrian, just one of those complete team losses. Not one thing or the other. It is a complete and whole team loss.
Yeah, storyline in game 2 for me was twofold, obviously. King's perfect ERA came to an end, number 1, and then number 2, Lawson was taken out of the game. So those were the 2 storylines, right? First of all, Aiden. Aiden went 5 innings, 3 hits, 4 runs, all earned, 4 base on balls, and 4 Ks. See, that's where Aiden, you could see he didn't have his command, was in the 4 base on balls. And that's where he got in trouble because he only scattered 3 hits when it was all said and done. But the 4 free passes all came around pretty much to score, and that's where he got in trouble. Only got 5 innings in and got in line for the loss. He did not have his command. Plain and simple, man. Brendan Lawson was taken out of the game after 1 at bat with a lower back issue. Spasms was what it was said. And of course, throughout the rest of that ball game, his spot in the order came up in some big situations. Unfortunately, obviously, that's what's going to happen, right? You get out of the ball game, your best hitter, and then the spot in the order always seems to be coming up with some big spots, man. Bama did a great job of tacking on runs. They tacked on 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, and that's important. When you got a lead, to tack on runs, and hats off to him. You mentioned it, LeBron. LeBron had a big series against Florida, and he hit us for a 2-run homer. The bullpen, this is when the bullpen started to wobble a little bit. The wheel started to wobble in this game with Jackson Barbary. He got roughed up, and then unfortunately that wobble came out to a full boom into the ditch come on Sunday. But it started in this ball game with Jackson Barbary uncharacteristically giving it up there when he came in. Good news, Eli Blair came in, pitched well, a scoreless inning and a third, but when it's all said and done, the bats just weren't there again, and the bullpen gave it up, and you lost the series Friday and Saturday, going into Sunday now.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a bright spot in this game, aside from the fact that Florida briefly had a 4-0 lead in the third game we're going to talk about, Eli Blair got 2 appearances in this series, and he did well in both of them. Combined between the 2 appearances, 2 innings, didn't give up a run. That's pretty good. 1 hit, 2 walks. Okay, I'd rather not average a walk an inning, but nonetheless, on a weekend where the Gator bullpen really did not look good, Eli Blair did give us multiple, albeit short, but still multiple outings in which we can at least feel somewhat good about him. So we talked about before, Adrian, the road to hosting, the formula for hosting as an SEC team. You've got to win all 5 home series. You've got to not get swept in any of your 5 road series. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. But then get one of your 5 home series wins to be a sweep, and then one of the road series that you don't get swept in. Don't just not get swept, but get 2 out of 3. Steal the road series. That gets you 17-13. And as an SEC team, you're going to host 100 times out of 100 with that on your resume, especially with the bullet point that we're going to talk about later. No more of that. Florida's got some bragging rights over both Miami and FSU that they can point to in their non-conference schedule. So that leads us to Sunday. Well, it starts out well enough. Florida goes up 4-0, but then it just all unravels, and it unravels fast. There is a now viral meme of Kevin O'Sullivan just with his hat off, and he's and if you're watching on YouTube, he's just like this, just staring at the camera. it's not a fun time. The bats woke up, and that's great, but the bullpen just completely melted down in this game. The starting pitcher for Florida on Sunday, doing the best job of any pitcher probably on the weekend, other than maybe Eli Blair, who only pitched 2 innings. But how about that, Adrian? We have something positive to talk about with our Sunday starter for once, Walls, and then the bullpen just lets this game completely get out of hand.
Just like in the other show, we never talk about what we're going to talk about. So, and you don't look at my notes because one of my storylines, the very first one, Cooper Walls goes lead Corso. Not so fast, my friend. Okay, that's storyline number 1. Storyline number 2, the bullpen has a meltdown. All right, so let's go storyline number 1. Going into this game, a lot of people were talking. We were talking about it on here and on the old Xbox. This might be Cooper Walls' last stand as far as the Sunday starter. Sully made some comments about Sandifer's performance during the midweek, and lo and behold, Cooper Walls comes out. Man, 4 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 3 base on balls, still a little bit high, but 4 strikeouts. Didn't give up, just the 1 run, man. Pitched really good. Didn't give up any. And that was an inherited run that was given up in that inning when he was taken out. People thought, hey, should he have been taken out at that time? Well, he had just finished walking the hitter, okay, after getting the first batter in the 5th inning out. He just finished walking that guy. And Sully had pretty much his entire bullpen lined up. And to this point, the bullpen had been the one thing, like I had put out on X, the one thing that Sully could count on was that bullpen. And he had them pretty much all lined up and ready to go. Okay? So he decided, I'm just going to go for it right here. He had a 4-run lead in the 5th inning with 1 out, man on first. Yeah, that's it. It's over. I'm going to my horses. And then first comes Ernie, Lugo Canchola, then comes Russell Sandifer, then came Josh Reitner, and then came Luke McNeely, and not one of them had their stuff on Sunday. And usually that is so rare. I mean, you could always go to the pen and at least find somebody to settle things down, okay? But it seemed like every time Sully went out there, the next guy he brought in just came out with a gas can and just kept throwing gas onto the barn fire, man. Just kept throwing gas. And Sully went out and got somebody else, and he came out with 2 gas cans, and he just started throwing gas. And before you know it, that meme of Sully in the dugout, I felt for him, man, because and post-game, you could just hear the frustration in Sully's voice because he had it lined up perfectly. Okay, fine. Let's say Ernie didn't have it that day. No problem. We'll take Ernie out, bring in Russell. Russell didn't get nobody out. Sandifer, he didn't get, I think he faced like 7 batters, didn't get one of them out. Okay, fine. I get it. High leverage situation now. I think it was still a tie game at that moment. I'm going to Reitner right now, which I love that move, by the way. I've talked about that before, how Sully is the type of manager who's not afraid to go to his quote-unquote 9th inning closer in a high leverage situation in the 6th or the 7th. He's not afraid to do that, and I love that. So that's what Sully did, okay? And what does Reitner do? He regressed back to almost like preseason fall ball when he had trouble throwing strikes. Not the guy who's had the last 5 appearances where he looks like a freaking All-American, okay? So that's why you get that meme with Sully in the dugout, because it's like, geez, what do I got to do to get a win here? I had it set up perfectly, and it has all blown up in my face, man. So nothing you can do about it. When your bullpen melts down like that, I mean, you just got to sit there, wear it. Never in my wildest dreams, Neil, would I have thought that a combination of Ernie, Sandifer, Reitner, and Luke would give up 14 runs in 3 innings. I mean, come on, that is craziness, but that's what happened. That's baseball. And you walked out of there with a sweep. Bama enjoyed themselves. They had a blast at your expense, hitting the home runs. Mr. LeBron, who's going to probably be a top 5 pick, doing his little woo, coming around first base. Guess what? You had to wear it. You know, Sam Miller didn't like it. He got himself thrown out because he confronted one of the runners. You know, hey, man, you don't like it, Neil? You know what you got to do?
Don't lose.
Something. Don't lose. Don't let it happen. Before we check out of this game and we go to the overview, I do want to say in this game though, one move that Sully made when he stacked the lineup with right-handed hitters, okay, on Miles Upchurch. Okay, Miles Upchurch has a nasty changeup, and Mark Etheridge from D1 Baseball confirmed it for us. Right, he quote tweeted one of my tweets or something, or he got in my mentions, and he said, yeah, the Upchurch has a nasty changeup. And that's what Sully does. He has talked about that, right? To stack a lineup, if it's a right-hander or a left-hander, and they got one of those nasty changeups, right? To stack it against them. Because the changeup from a righty is devastating to a lefty. And Faye on Friday had a lot of success with his changeup on our lefties. So Sully saw that, okay? He saw that he knows Upchurch has a devastating changeup, so he stacked the lineup with right-handers to take away that changeup from Upchurch, which is his best pitch, basically. And when a pitcher has one of their best pitches like that, that's a changeup, it also becomes kind of like their comfort pitch, right? Like you with your comfortable pillow at night. That's just the right one so you can go to sleep. That's how pitchers are with their favorite pitch. So what happened to Upchurch? What happened to him? First inning, man, he couldn't find the strike zone. And guess what he didn't have that Sully took away from him? His comfort, his little comfy blanket. He took it away from him.
I don't understand. I was told Sully was washed and forgot how to coach.
Not washed. He has an unbelievable baseball mind. He took away his changeup, and boom, Sully pretty much, because those 4 runs that Florida scored were all gifted. It's not like we tore the cover off the ball. This guy just couldn't find the strike zone because he took away that changeup from him. So before we get out of here on the Alabama series, I just wanted to make that point that was a great coaching decision by Sully. Should have worked all the way. He had it set up right from the first pitch of the ball game. He set it up, but unfortunately, the bullpen uncharacteristically let him down. The worst game by far they've had all season.
And that's why, like, I as I get older and I do more, I do more media stuff. Like I'm doing more interviews, or I do more radio, or I do more podcasts, or I just put myself out there more. I try to give less and less credence to the morons on Twitter who say the stupidest stuff just for reactions. But like, this is why I don't have any patience for the Sully is washed people. Like you said, he did what he could to win. The reason that he was giving us this meme of him just like that was because he did everything he possibly could. He did everything. He pulled every lever that he could possibly pull, both with the lineup and with his bullpen. And it just didn't work out because the guys couldn't execute for him. A couple numbers on some things that you kind of left open-ended, Adrian. Like, for example, Sandifer facing 4 batters, managed to get only one of them out. Like, all right, you just can't have that. You just can't have that happen. Then you go to Joshua Reitnauer. He faces 6 guys, gets one of them out. What's Sully supposed to do? Those are his top shelf bullpen guys that he just can't get any sort of production out of. So yeah, and then as for the guys celebrating and doing their little Flappy Bird thing, I said the same thing about Iowa and basketball doing the Gator chomp at Florida. There's a really easy way to make sure it doesn't happen, and that's to win the game, and you didn't do it. So you have to just sit there and take it, like you said about Sam Miller. But yeah, that's that. Let's go on and just review this thing from a 35,000-foot view. It's over, Adrian. It's in the past now, but I mean, we got a pretty good wake-up call. If High Point didn't tell us some things about ourselves. This definitely did. So your main takeaways from this series sweep against Alabama?
Well, a couple things. First of all, the post Bama overview, right? Hitting is just ugly right now. Okay, they're slumping fierce, man. They're slumping fierce. It's pretty much started with let's just start with the freshman, right? Cash is struggling hard, and he was kind of like a pleasant surprise at the beginning of the season. So much so that Sully moved him up to clean up fifth place hitting, right? And he just got off to a tear. I think I heard Jeff Cardozo on today say, come Sunday, he was like 2 for his last 35, something to that effect. Then he came in on Sunday after Ashton got hurt with the hit by pitch and got a couple of hits, right? So he probably was expecting to be off, had to come in on an emergency basis and got a couple of hits. But before that, he was like 2 for 35. So he needs to get it going again, hopefully, man. Jacob Kendall unfortunately didn't carry over the preseason into the regular season, really. He kind of had a couple of flashes there early on, but it looks like, he's going to have a hard time now getting back into that lineup, which is unfortunate because during the preseason, he was probably your hottest bat. At one point during the preseason, he was hitting like 700. All right. So, those are two left-handed bats that Sully started the season with in their lineup. And now one of them is out of the lineup and one of them is struggling mightily. Right. Kyle Jones is in a fierce slump right now. Okay. He was a guy who was hitting was averaging 2 doubles every game. And now he's slumping pretty fiercely. Okay. And then you get Curlin, who's come back from injury. So it's going to take him a little time to get going, probably. He's still like in preseason form right now. Unfortunately, he's missed a lot of time, a lot of at-bats. Blake Sear had gotten off to a good start, then got hurt, right? And now he's, trying to get back into the groove of things. He got a home run in the Alabama series. So that's a good thing. Had a big at bat that we'll talk about in the FSU game today, right? So hopefully he gets it going because you need that bat, And then I've been asked about Ethan Surowich, to talk about Ethan Surowich, right? Ethan Surowich was a guy who during fall and preseason displayed power, had a lot of power during fall and preseason. I predicted he was going to have about 15 to 20 home runs, maybe even 20 plus. Had a huge summer in the Northwoods League that we all know that he had like 15 something like that home runs. Was MVP, I think, of that league. And I've been asked about his swing. Ethan Surowich has a fierce inside-out swing. Okay, it's something you rarely see for somebody that big, that powerful, with that much power. You usually don't see that natural kind of inside-out swing that he has. Okay, I like to say it's like a Derek Jeter, right? But Derek Jeter was a shortstop, okay, a skinny guy who grew up, always being a skinny dude with that inside-out swing. Now, those types of swings are good because you let the ball travel like crazy because you're always hitting it either at the plate or even sometimes even beyond home plate when you have that fierce inside-out swing. But for a guy like Zuro, who's that big and strong with so much power, man, you really want him to take advantage sometimes of a ball, a nice little cookie on the inner half of the plate, and be able to turn on that bad boy, hit it 400 feet over the left field bullpen. Okay? But if he's always waiting for that ball to travel in here and inside out it, that's not going to happen too often. He's going to miss opportunities to do that. Now, you say, well, change it. Listen, I'm not talking about a batting stance, all right? A batting stance, you'll see guys change batting stances like within a ball game. One game after another, 3-4 times in a season if they're slumping. But a swing path, the swing path That is very similar to a quarterback's throwing motion. Let's remember what they tried to do to Tim Tebow. Remember how many times people tried to change Tim Tebow's throwing motion?
Because he kept dropping the ball down to his hip. Yeah.
Exactly. But to change a throwing motion of a quarterback, man, that's muscle memory that you've had since you were a little toddler, since little Timmy was throwing the ball there in Jacksonville with his pops, the football, or in the Philippines over there doing the whole missionary thing. He's throwing the football as a 6-year-old. That's the muscle memory he was developing. Okay. So to change that is just like saying to change the swing path of a hitter. Okay. So when Zuro gets to the minor leagues, they're going to change that. Okay. But they have time. Okay, they could put him in instructional ball for a whole season and have him just work on that. Work on his swing path, getting rid of that massive inside out that he has so he could start turning on more balls, because when he gets to if you want to get to the big leagues, they'll tell him, brother, you got to be hitting it over that fence, because that's what Major League Baseball is nowadays. Okay, we don't need a power hitting third baseman to inside out every ball. Okay, so why don't they do it in college? Well, I just told you, because it's so hard to change that. It's almost like a year's project, okay, to change that. A lot of hard work. So if you're a college coach and you get Zurowicz from the Northwoods, who hit 15 home runs, and he's coming to your program here, are you going to start changing that, man? Or are you going to say, listen, man, just keep doing what you're doing and let's ride? Of course, you're going to just tell them, keep doing what you're doing and let's ride. So unfortunately, though, it hasn't translated yet to the season as far as him being able to translate to power. Okay. And that's been a setback, because if you were banking on 15, 20 home runs from Zuro, probably in that 3 or 4 slot, giving protection to Lawson, which we're going to talk about now. Okay. And you're not getting it. Now you can see how that starts to affect your lineup and some of your offensive production numbers. Okay. So now, Lawson, today, 3 intentional walks against Florida State. Over the weekend, he had some intentional walks also. Lawson's is not going to get pitched to, man. His days of getting pitched to right now are probably over.
He's getting the Caglione treatment.
It's going to be even worse. So somebody has to step up to protect Lawson here. And I know Sully's probably stressed out about that big time. My money is on Curlin. I think you put Curlin behind Lawson, which is how Sully had it today, and you just hopefully let it ride. Hopefully Curlin gets hot. You know, he gets back into the groove of things, and he could provide some protection to Lawson. He provided some today, okay, a little bit today. But he had a couple of rough at-bats also. Tough hitting conditions today, though. But we really need somebody behind Lawson, or else Lawson, he's going to set records for intentional walks, much less the intentional walks. So that's the hitting component, okay? I mean, on Sunday, they had 11 free passes. Alabama made 4 errors. And you still were only able to score 7 runs, 4 in those first couple of innings that were gifts because of Upchurch and Sully's decision to stack the lineup. And then, a couple of runs there in the last inning. Meaningless runs when you were already down by 9 runs or whatnot. So the offense is struggling mightily, man. And regardless of how good your pitching is and your bullpen, you got to hit the ball. You got to score runs. Now, next up, Neil, is the leadership component, right? We talked about it. Sully talked about it on the post game on Sunday. He was pretty heated about it, man. The dugout, it's lifeless a little bit too much for Sully's liking. All right. One thing he mentioned during the post game was that Liam came up to him before Sunday's game to ask Sully if he could address the team. All right. Now that's very important, right? Because analyze that for a second. I'm thinking 2 things here. Number one, no one has already addressed the team. No player has already gathered the team after getting no hit, having another no show on Friday, offense struggling, right? No, none of the players had yet to that point gathered each other and had a little powwow somewhere. Okay, number one. And number two, Liam, and God bless him, man, but to go up to Sully to say, hey, coach, can I, do this? Right? Where if you're a leader on the team, you ain't asking the coach for permission.
You just do it.
All right, exactly.
You just do it.
You just do it. You just do it. All right. So, like I have feared and like I have mentioned before, this team just lacks that leader, that guy. It just lacks it. And listen, and when you say something like that, there's always people that come out on Twitter and start coming to the defense of the guys, Oh, there's leaders here. There's leaders. You guys, listen, man. It's not a bad thing that a team doesn't have a leader. It doesn't make them bad kids. It doesn't make them bad baseball players. Not everybody's cut out to be a leader. Not everybody. And unfortunately, in this team, you probably don't have those types of strong personalities that could be a leader. Now, somebody like Carson Bowen, I think he's a guy who could be a leader on this team. But then you have the whole portal thing, right? If the guy's only been there for about 4 or 5 months, right? How much of a leader can he really be, right?
Also, though, BT Riopel, also a transfer from Carolina.
But BT was multiple years, and I'm sure that by his second, third year here, he was a much more assertive leader than he was probably his first year. But again, BT is one of those special characters. So for somebody like a Carson Bowen to just come into a team, right, parachute in, and immediately garner the respect of the team just like that and be a leader, man, that's a special dude. That is a special dude, man, to do it that fast. I don't know if Carson can do it that fast. I know if he was here for maybe one more year, next year, Carson Bowen would be like a BT Riopel. I guarantee you that. But I don't know yet if he has that cachet in the clubhouse to do that. So, Sully, man, he really, on the postgame on Sunday, was not happy with how the dugout has been, made a comment about, he doesn't have to bring his pom-poms, all right, to cheer up the dugout, to get excited, that him and his coaches put his players in positions. They give them scouting reports. They set the machines for them properly so they get a good eye of how the pitcher's going to pitch. They give them all types of reports on all the pitchers of the other team, and they put them in positions to be successful. Now, bringing energy to the ball game, he's very clear, man. That's on them. That's on them. That's not up to him and his coaches to go up and down the dugout constantly throughout the ball game, getting the players pumped up, No, they got to hold each other accountable. So Sully was very strict on that. Talked about it again post-game here against Florida State, which we'll talk about now, like later. But, when it's all said and done, we'll see how the leadership component continues to develop throughout the season. Because I'll tell you what, man, teams that have leaders, player-led teams are much more equipped to get through these rough patches of tough baseball, right? Teams that are coach-led teams, right, that don't have those dugout, those clubhouse leaders, it's a lot tougher. And I'll be honest with you, man, for years, forever, what I've heard about Sully is that Sully is the type of manager that runs his team like a major league ball club. Okay? He runs his team like a major league ball club, treats them like pros, expects them to do the work that they're supposed to be doing on the field, off the field, in between ball games, go in, get treatment, get extra BP work, get extra field work. He treats them like pros. Okay. So that's very important, because if you give them a long leash and you treat your team like pros, then sometimes they have to police themselves. And if they don't police themselves because they don't have a strong leader to police themselves, because your manager is treating the clubhouse like a bunch of pros, that's when stuff could sometimes slip through the cracks. And that's when Sully then will have to get frustrated and then get more involved. And is not the type of manager he is. It just isn't. He's not one of those, like a helicopter parent, right? Like that new term now, helicopter parents. He's not a helicopter coach. He lets the players, be players, manage themselves somewhat, and then he puts them in positions to be successful. But he depends on them to be pros and act like pros.
Another good term is micromanaging.
Yeah,
especially in baseball, it's in the MLB at least, it's a manager, not a coach, is the guy in charge of the team, which is not how it is in any other sport. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good stuff there, Adrian. Talking about Sirowicz, we saw what we saw from him throughout most of the season. I will point out, on a positive note, he did go 2 for 3 in the finale against Alabama. So that is just one game, but all right, that's something. Maybe that's something he can build off of as we're going throughout the SEC schedule. The swing, the mechanics of that, just we're not going to see them get fixed at Florida, like you said. I didn't play baseball as much as you, but I did play enough to know that when you're doing mechanical tweaks like that, a sign that it's working is that your swing gets worse before it gets better. And Florida can't afford that, because when it gets worse, it means you're becoming more familiar, or it means that you are doing something that's very unfamiliar to you. And when you're doing something that's unfamiliar to you against the likes of SEC opposition, it's just naturally not going to result in anything good happening, right? That's just logical. So there's not the time for it to happen at Florida. And it sucks that we're not going to see it play out that way at Florida. You touched on pretty much everything about Brendan Lawson. I don't think there's anything else to go into there. And I think, Adrian, that brings us to the Tuesday night game against Florida State. The Gators won the opener against FSU in Gainesville 6-3, meaning that with one more win in either of the final 2 games against the Seminoles, the Gators would claim the state title, having already swept Miami earlier in the year. The Gators did not give up a run in this game. Crazy to think, after giving up 6, 8, and 14 to Alabama with their best pitchers, the Gators go to Jacksonville and they shut down and they shut out the Seminoles. I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have guessed that Florida was going to maybe win a 10-7 type of game if they were going to win it, but no, they hold FSU off the board completely. The Gators having a big inning in the 7th. Some crazy things happening there with a sack bunt that gets you your first run in the game. You have a bases loaded walk. Then you have Sirowicz singling through the left side, I think right between the shortstop and third baseman. And then Blake Sear sending a single up the middle to score 2 more runs for Florida. That was plenty, more than enough for Florida to win. Russell Sandifer gets his first win of the year. Jackson Barbary getting the save. And the Gators have officially conquered the Noles again. It is now 26-8 for Florida since the Quincy Neaporte bat flip in 2015. If you remember, you remember. There's my Rain Man memory. Florida would go on to sweep the Seminoles in the Supers that year, and they have not looked back since in this rivalry that Florida has drawn within just 4 games of. FSU, not that long ago, had a lead of 28 or 32 games or so in the series. It's down to 4. It's 135-131 now for the Seminoles as Adrian the Gators take the series again in Jacksonville.
Yeah, man. Sully's dominance of the in-state rivals continues, man. Listen, post-game, I'm just going to get right to it. Post-game, the comments from Sully, I encourage everybody to go check out the Sully's post-game comments tweet that I put out, but I'll read some of it here. He was asked about the game first, right? And he just kind of went right into this. Honest with you, the plane ride home was not easy. Yesterday was not easy. We had a heart-to-heart as a group. Those guys that didn't pitch well on Sunday, I challenged them and they responded. That's all you can ask for as a coach. I challenged them all. Eli Blair pitched 1 in the third good ball, and the rest of them gave up 14 runs. I challenged them all. I'm pleased with how they threw the ball tonight. We were into it. We had energy. Not going to have the bad body language, that silent dugout. If I have to drag it out of them, I'm going to drag it out of them. That play by Colt Myers down the line was one of the best plays I've ever seen. That's what I'm talking about. The energy, the hustle. You got to always bring it. Pleased with how they bounced back. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And then he went on to talk, because like he'll be asked like something and then he'll like answer it, but then he'll like go back to what he wants to talk about. He was asked about the small ball again, and he went again after talking about it. He was just proud with how they responded today. We had that heart-to-heart. We're going to continue to talk about this, and the way we played this weekend was not acceptable around here. Later on, he was asked about the beginning, and he talked about that a little bit, but then he said, we come here because we expect you to go to Omaha. We expect to go to Omaha, and you have to play like it. We got to go over the pop-ups, but other than that, it was a clean ball game in really tough conditions. So you can see the theme of his post-game comments, man. Listen, it's crazy because the same pitchers that tossed the shutout today were the ones who gave up 14 runs on Sunday. So they tossed a shutout in 9 innings today against Florida State, and they gave up 14 runs against, let's face it, a middle of the pack to lower tier SEC team in Alabama in just 2.5 innings. So that's baseball. Unfortunately, sometimes you just never know. I encourage everybody to go watch that Colt Myers play. I think that was obviously the play of the game. Just the unbelievable hustle. It was a smash to Colton Schwartz. If Schwartz had come up with that ball, it would have been an unbelievable play. I mean, the ball must have been like at least 110 exit velo. Just a BB, man. Gets past him, hits off his shoulder, I think, goes into the left field corner, right? Blake Sear took a bad angle to it. I don't even think that he thought that it was hit that hard, because I think Blake saw it ricocheted off of Colton, and I think he thought that ricochet was going to take a lot of the steam off it, right? So he kind of breaks into it, but the ball just takes off. And with the ground being wet, it probably just even skidded even more. But Colt Myers, from his shortstop position, does about a 50-yard sprint literally to the wall down the left field line, gets the ball, and then throws a BB down to third base and gets the guy out. That was a very big play right there, man, because I'm trying to think, what was the score right there? I think it was only 1-0 still.
It was 1-0 because that was in the seventh, I think top of the seventh.
Yeah.
And Florida scored its 4 runs in the bottom of the seventh.
Huge, man. So huge play. Just outstanding play, man. I mean, even Sully says he's never seen a play like that before. I had the pitcher lines here, but the pitchers that pitched today, right? Sandiford opened up. Somebody tweeted me on X, and it might be something to look at that Sully might have to consider. Sandiford looks to be a different pitcher when he starts ball games than when he comes out of the bullpen. And if that trend continues, Sully might have to make a decision there, man. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. I don't know how Sully's going to handle that, because he looked like a completely different pitcher. And the times he's looked really good happened to coincide with him starting the midweek games. So I don't know, man, because he looked just unbelievable in those 3 innings that he had today. And then you had Luke came in, did great, and you had Barbary came in. Each one went 3 innings, and they got the shutout. So unbelievable performance by the 3 of them. Lawson, like we talked about, intentionally walked 3 times, and we already talked about that. He needs the protection. So those were my FSU notes for the instant reaction. You have anything else?
I have some breaking news for you. We've got a very special caller calling into the show. We don't typically have a call-in portion of the show, but we have a special guest who would like to say hello. We've got Kevin O'Sullivan on the line right now. Coach, congrats on the win. How you feeling?
better than this weekend, that's for sure. We needed this one. Obviously, it's a big win because it's a rival, in-state rival, but we just needed to play better, and the energy in the dugout was better. The body language was better. The pitching was better. We executed offensively. We got some timely hits from Ethan and from Blake, and the safety squeeze, from Strayer, left on left, and it was a great night. It was a really good win, and we needed it. We had a heart-to-heart today before we left, and challenged some of the players, and the pitchers certainly responded, and I couldn't be more proud of the way they pitched. And I'm not quite sure why every year we go on the road for the first time in the SEC and seem to not play as well as we should, especially the years we go down to Miami, because it kind of prepares us for what the road looks like. But obviously, tonight was a big win for us.
Coach, I mean, you talk about getting not your best effort or not your best performance, I should say, from the players the first times that they go on the road. But that is baseball. I mean, the series that comes to mind for me is going to Auburn and getting swept in 17, and a couple months later, you're hoisting the trophy and winning the national championship. So there's clearly something to the learning curve that goes on throughout the regular season. What do you think the team learned this weekend against Alabama, and why are they going to be better for it?
You mean this upcoming weekend?
Sorry?
Are you talking about this upcoming weekend in Arkansas?
Well, so I'm saying, what do you think the team learned from the series against Alabama, and why are they going to be better because of it?
Well, I think it's just the uncomfortability of being on an away field, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's why home records are always better than away records usually, right? So, but you've got to be able to deal with, hostile crowds, and especially in this league, you've got to be able to respond when the game comes calling. I didn't think our body language was very good. I thought the dugout wasn't very good. And all that plays into, and that's the most difficult league in the country. So when you have, things like, you have a bad first or bad, or you're complaining about the umpires, balls and strikes, and worrying about everything other than just playing the game, and you add that on top of playing quality opponents week in and week out, those outcomes end up becoming reality. And that's what we addressed today. And honestly, when I went out to talk to McNeely, I was going to take him out of the game. And I never changed my mind very rarely. And I got about halfway to the mound because I was going to bring in Barbary. And I was like, you know what? He needs to get through this. And sure enough, made a couple good pitches, got a ground ball, got out of it. And those are like the small moments, like behind the scenes, that a lot of people don't know or hear about. But that was a big moment for him to get through that inning, and not to have to lean on somebody else to get him through that. Our pitch is too good to have a weekend like we did against Alabama. And that's just the reality of it. We scored 3 in the first, and as soon as they tied the game, you could just feel the energy in the dugout got deflated. And, and I was just honest. We had Eli Blair, and no offense to him, but, he throws back-to-back days on Friday and Saturday, and throws 1 2/3 innings and gives up 1 run. And we got Sandifer, we got, McNeely, and we got Rittenauer going 1 2/3 as well, rested, and saw 2 games, and they gave up 10 runs. And we walking people in wild pitches, and very uncharacteristic of us. And tonight you saw what they're supposed to be doing. And, hopefully this is a good learning experience for them. Hopefully they're learning that, our pitching is as good as anybody's in the country. But if you don't throw it across the plate, bad things are going to happen. So hopefully tonight in a great atmosphere and tough conditions, with it being misty the entire night and the wind the way it was blowing in, I thought they responded great. And that's all a coach can ask for. Sometimes they need a pat on the back, and sometimes they need to be, talked to firmly. And I couldn't be more pleased the way they responded.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, I know that you've got a long night ahead of you getting back to Gainesville, but I did want to ask you one more question. Obviously, Florida State is a huge rivalry across all sports. And I don't know how much you remember specific details, but as a fan myself, I am always going to remember, and I talked about this just a few minutes ago on the show, in 2015, you've each won one game. You play the third game against FSU, and this guy for FSU named Quincy Neaporte walks you off and does a little bat flip. And since that moment, it has been 26-8 for the Gators over the Seminoles. Quincy Neaporte curses his own program, and the Gators are 26-8 against the Noles. How in the world does that happen? It has been it has been a dozen years since then. How have you maintained this dominance over FSU since then? With so many changings, or so many players' names changing, and the program changing, FSU going through 3 different coaches since then. How has that dominance continued?
I really don't have a clear answer for that. I just think that the older players do pass along the importance of the rivalry with not just Florida State, but also with Miami. And it is important to our fans. It's important to everybody. And I stress that too. I mean, it's important to our fans. And to put it in the words that or context that you're putting it into, I don't really have an answer for that, because anything can happen in baseball, as you guys both know. But we've just seemed to play better. And I don't think, I do know that there was no better time to play Florida State than tonight after coming off the weekend that we played, because it forced us to ultimately be entirely focused, be in on every pitch. The players listened to everything I told them before the game. It was a positive vibe. There wasn't a hangover from the weekend. And like I said, I speak from my heart. I speak honestly. Sometimes they don't like what I have to say, but I always try to be as honest as I can with our players. And like I said, all I can do is ask them to respond and pay attention. And obviously tonight they did. But it's one game, and things can change in a hurry, and they can, in a positive way, and they can change in a negative way quickly. But the difference between this sport and probably most, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And like you said, in 17, we got swept at Auburn, and next thing you know, we won the SEC championship, and we won a national championship. So, and you can see all the crazy things that are going on right now in March Madness, and, anything can happen on any given night. But the most important thing for us is to learn how to play Florida's way. They're not going to do things the way they've done things before. We're not going to – you can't umpire and play at the same time, and I think we did that on Friday night. And actually the umpire, with the buffer zone was like 93% correct, and we're complaining about balls and strikes, and the next thing you know, we get no hit. Well, that's what happens, right? And if we have a better mindset and we worry about what we can control, and that is just having good at-bats and not worry about the umpire, and we pitch the way we can pitch, and hopefully we're finding the right spots defensively, because we do need to get better there. But our pitching is good, and it should be good. But we might not have the same type of offense that we've had over the last couple of years. We might need to score runs in different ways, and I think you saw that tonight with the safety squeeze left on left with Strayer, and then also with, they intentionally walked, I think, Lawson twice, and we double stole. And Colt Myers played down the left field line, was as good a hustle play as I've seen in a long time. And like I said, we got some key hits in that one inning with Ethan and with Blake, and that may be our offense. But there's nothing wrong with that if we pitch the way we're supposed to pitch. And obviously we did not do that this weekend, and hopefully this weekend we'll pitch the way we're supposed to pitch competitively.
Adrian, got anything else to ask?
Can you hear me, or do you have
to
talk to me? Okay. Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this, Sully, man. I was going to just ask you, because I know you're tired and you're probably just getting into town, but I was going to ask you, and you just touched upon it, man. The Colt Myers play, a routine 6'5" put out from the left field wall. I've never seen anything like that, man. Tell me a little bit about something about that more. What was your first thought when you saw that?
It's a game-changing play, right? Like, it changed the momentum of the game. I mean, instead of having a runner at third with nobody out in a one-run game, it's just not a hustle play. It's an instinctual play, right? Like that play in itself may have changed the whole outcome of that ball game, to be quite honest with you.
That's what I
If
thought.
you think about it, they got a runner at third with nobody out, and we all know the percentage of scoring runs at third base with nobody out. Now we got a tie ball game. Now things change. A one-run lead like tonight, it felt like a two or three run lead because of the conditions. The wind was blowing straight in from left. It was misty. We only had 3 walks as a pitching staff. But that play in itself probably changed the entire outcome of that ball game, to be honest with you.
No doubt. That's what I thought also, man. And I just had commented on it right before you came on. So
maybe 90 seconds before you before the phone rings, maybe 90 seconds before he was just talking about that.
It's kind of ironic.
That's amazing timing. Coach, safe travels back to Gainesville. Congrats on the series W. And hey,
good luck this weekend.
Yeah, best of luck this weekend against Arkansas. And we're so thankful for the relationship that we built with you. Thank you for everything.
You got it. I appreciate you guys too. Have a great night.
You too. Take care, Coach.
Take care.
Bye. Well, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, that was pretty cool.
That was a Gator Diamond Pod a first. We've never had or in all kinds of weather first. Never had a coach call in transit.
He's probably like on the bus right now.
Maybe we should set up like a live call-in number just for coaches to call in if that's going to be a thing. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of like fanboying out right now.
No,
that was pretty cool.
But analyzing what he said was a lot of what we have already talked about, right?
Totally.
I mean, he just reiterated it all. You can see where he's coming from. He's happy about today's win. He's happy about how the pitchers responded, especially, and I could tell he's probably a little concerned. He's not going to know how these guys are going to do on the road until they do it, okay? So Baum Walker is a tough environment, okay? So if they had a little hiccup in a half-empty Alabama stadium, Baum Walker is going to be a whole different environment, brother. So I know until these guys get out there in that environment and perform the way they know how to perform, he's going to always be a little bit worried. But he's going to challenge them. They responded today, and hopefully they should respond this weekend because you're going to need them. He just said how the type of team that they're going to be this year is going to be dependent on the pitching and the bullpen. The starting pitching, getting them hopefully 6 to 7, and then turning it over to that ace bullpen, and that's the recipe for success. So,
I'm going to let that 6-7 meme slide. I know we want to appeal to the next generation of Gator fans. I'm going to let that slide.
I always get that. Yeah. Always get, what is it? The 6-7? Is that like a meme?
It's a meme. It's it's something that like definitionally does not make sense, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be an inside joke among Gen Alpha, but yeah. All right. Moving on. Arkansas, the Gators and the Razorbacks. I would say, Adrian, LSU is probably the cream of the crop in the SEC prestige-wise. Historically, Florida and Arkansas are probably two of the next best teams prestige-wise in the league. Texas certainly has to be up there. You can say Mississippi State because they have like an MLB type of stadium and they take baseball that seriously there. But these are two of the premier programs in the SEC. No exaggeration. They've met in Omaha before. There was a national semifinal game basically in 2018. So they've got the history there. And the Gators and Razorbacks come into this game on very, very different looks. Obviously, Arkansas does have the one stumble crazily enough to a team that just fired its coach, but they've looked pretty damn good throughout the course of this season for the most part, with a couple of exceptions. How do you see this series playing out, not just score-wise, but then how do you see the games playing themselves out this weekend?
A few things. Oh, well, first of all, Arkansas obviously coming in 18-7, 4-2 in the SEC, led by Dave Van Horn. This is his 24th season at Arkansas, man. 24 seasons for Dave Van Horn. Sully's at what? How many seasons is Sully
This
at?
is 19th.
19th. So Dave Van Horn is easily
Dave Van Horn
the
is the
senior
dean
member.
of SEC coaches. Yes,
The dean of SEC coaches. It's amazing that they haven't won a national championship. Obviously, they had the drop fly ball,
yeah.
And we all know about drop pop-ups this year. Okay, so we all know
we saw like 3 of them tonight.
devastating the drop pop-up could be. It cost them a national championship. But listen, Arkansas, 18-7. They're ranked in the top 5, so they're given a lot of street cred right now. Okay, because they have a couple losses against Stetson. The Stetson that we took 3 games in the midweeks on. All right, they got a loss to Arkansas State, a loss to UT Arlington, and a loss to Mississippi State, and a loss to South Carolina. So to be top 5 with those L's, you're being given some street cred. Now they're a good team, okay, but nonetheless, all right. Let's go over the batting first, man. Batting, they're coming in very similar to Florida's numbers here. They're coming in 10th in the SEC in hitting at 288. Florida's coming in at 11 right now at 278. That's not including today's ball game. Home runs, Arkansas has 35 and Florida has 32. So very similar as far as the offensive production goes. Okay. Main hitters to look at here that they're going to be on Sully and Coach Kopp's scouting report is Camden Koziel. He's a junior second baseman, left-handed hitter, transferred from Vandy a couple years ago. So this is his second year with Arkansas. He's hitting 344 with 7 home runs and 31 RBIs. He's the team leader in both home runs and RBIs, usually hitting right in the third hole for him. Okay, left-handed hitter, probably their best hitter right now. Hitting 5th for him normally is Damian Ruiz. He's a junior left fielder, right-handed hitter. He's a transfer from Lamar, okay, and he's their team leader in batting average. He's hitting 364, so 20 points higher than Koziel. He's at 3 home runs and 12 RBIs, usually hitting, like I said, in the 5th hole. Their main guy, their preseason All-SEC guy, was their catcher, considered to be one of the top catchers in the conference coming into the season, Ryder Helfrich, and he's hitting leadoff for him. So you rarely see a catcher hitting leadoff, but he's been hitting leadoff for him. He's a junior catcher, right-handed hitter. He's hitting 321 with 6 home runs and 19 RBIs. And then the last guy that I'll highlight in the batter's box here is Kohio Aloy. He's the remainder of the Aloy brothers. Last year, the shortstop Aloy was drafted real high, first-round draft pick.
Behiva Aloy.
Behiva Aloy. This is the other brother. He's at 282 with 4 home runs, 23 ribbies. He's a junior right fielder, right-handed power hitter. Okay. The other Aloy was definitely the better, prospect as far as the pros go. But this kid, nonetheless, has a lot of power also, Kuhio. So that's their hitters coming into this weekend. Arkansas has always made their bones on pitching. That's where, they've always had the power of their team, kind of like Florida. Florida has always had the good pitching staffs with Sully. Same thing with Arkansas. This year's no different. They're coming in right now ranked 3rd in the SEC with a 3.28 ERA. Florida's coming in with a 3.83 ERA. That's 9th in the SEC. Now, this is where they look to have a little chink in their pitching armor, especially compared to Florida, is in home runs allowed. Okay? Home runs allowed, Arkansas has given up 25 home runs. That's second to last in the SEC. By comparison, even with a rough weekend that we talked about with, the kid flying around the bases, hitting all those home runs on us, Florida's still second in the SEC with only 10 home runs allowed all season. Okay, so Arkansas, low ERA, but they do give up the long ball. Now, Florida's had trouble getting the long ball, right? Besides Lawson, nobody else really is showing proficiency to hit the ball deep. So we'll see if maybe a couple other guys could run into one here, man. Maybe Blake Sear could run into one. Maybe Zurowicz could run into one, man. That'll be good, okay? But Friday starter. Their Friday starter is Gabe Gackle, big, strong right-hander, flamethrower, throws upper to mid 90s. He comes in at 3-1 with a 2.87 ERA. In 31 innings pitched, he has 38 strikeouts. So he's a very good Friday guy. You're going to have to be geared up for the fastball. Okay, there's Saturday and Sunday guys now. They're coming at you with two lefties. Okay, so like I said, the lefty situation with us right now is a little questionable. So we'll see what Sully does if he decides to keep Cash in the lineup with these lefties. Oh, okay. We talked about that. But on Saturday, you got Hunter Dietz, who's a sophomore left-hander. He comes in 2-2 with a 3.86 ERA. In 30 innings pitched, he has 54 strikeouts, and opponents are hitting only 204 off of him. So he's a very good pitcher, big time pro prospect. On Sunday, they got this kid, Colin Fisher. This is his first year. He's been with Arkansas, all right, since his freshman year. But this is the first year that he's really gotten a lot of work. And he's doing good, man. He's a junior left-hander. He's their Sunday guy. Comes in at 2-2 with a 2.70 ERA. In 30 innings pitched, he has 38 strikeouts. But get this, Neil. Opponents are hitting a paltry 191 off of him. And his whip is under 1. Meaning in 30 innings pitched, he's only given up 21 hits and 7 base on balls. That combines for 28 total bases in 30 innings pitched. Makes his whip, walks, hits per inning pitched under 1.0, which is outstanding. So for a Sunday starter, those are some really good numbers, man. So, we'll see. It's going to be tough. These are some good pitchers. You're going to have to match them on the mound. The one relief guy that I'm going to highlight is their main arm coming out of the pen. Florida will probably see him a couple times probably. Steele Eves. He's a sophomore right-hander. He's got great numbers, man. He's 3-0 with a 1.02 ERA. In 8 appearances, he has 17 innings pitched, only giving up 9 hits, 3 walks, 15 strikeouts in 17 innings pitched. And the opponent batting average off of him, a measly 148. So if it gets to Steele Eves, it's probably going to get tough. He looks like he's nailed, man. So typical Arkansas team, good pitching, good defense. You're going to have to pitch with them to have a shot. Baum Walker is no joke. That's going to be jam-packed. Bunch of crazies over there. They take their baseball serious, and they love it when the Gators come into town, man. So it's going to be a tough series, Neil.
We remember a couple of years ago, they got rowdy for Florida. The series in which Jack Caglione just golfed this pitch that was maybe 6 inches off the ground for a grand slam. They didn't like that, but man, they got rowdy that weekend. One more thing I wanted to point out too. You touched on pretty much everything else, which makes sense because Gator Diamond Pod is your baby. But you left a little meat on the bone with the analysis there. You left me one little piece of meat to snag off that bone, Adrian. You want to talk about being susceptible to the long ball, giving up hits that just fly out of the park, as opposed to a lot of little hits. The dimensions of Baum Walker Stadium are significantly shorter than Condren Ballpark down the lines and in the power alleys. So center field, dead center is the same. It's 400 feet even. But left field foul pole is 320. Right field foul pole is 320. That's 10 feet shorter than it is in Gainesville. So, and then left center field in Arkansas, it's not quite symmetrical. Left center field is 375. Right center field is 365. In Gainesville, they're both 380. So we want to talk about power alleys. There's a difference. Several feet there can make that difference when you want to talk about balls that die on the warning track. This could be the weekend if Arkansas is susceptible to giving up the long ball. This could be the weekend that someone else needs to step up, or this could be the weekend that someone else does step up and proves themselves another worthy adversary so that you don't just keep pitching around or just putting on Brendan Lawson. So something to watch there from me.
Yeah, we talked about Zuro's inside-out cut, and a lot of his home runs during preseason fall were to right center and right field. He would go up on the berm in right field over at Condren. So with these dimensions, man, I mean, this might be a series in which Zurowicz could, take one or two out, and they'll be outstanding, man. Hey, we got to do predictions. Go first, you.
Well, I got burned last week saying that Florida was going to win the series that they got swept in. So I'm not exactly brimming over the top with confidence. I don't think Florida gets swept again. I don't think it's likely. Maybe I'm riding the high of beating FSU, or maybe I'm riding the high of talking to Kevin O'Sullivan live on our show, but I don't think Florida gets swept. I also don't think Florida gets the series. I will say that Adrian King gives us a bounce back performance, and he shoves. You're going to use the baseball term, baseball pod. Adrian King shoves on Saturday. We get that one. We lose Friday and we lose Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to go Florida takes 1 out of 3. It's hard for me right now to pick Florida to take the series going into Arkansas. Hopefully I think, though, that they ride the momentum into Friday, believe it or not. And I think they take advantage of the right-hander starting for Arkansas. And I think Liam has a bounce-back game. And I think Friday they take that game and probably the Saturday, Sunday ones against the two tough lefties, it looks like. I think those are going to be a little tougher until some of our right-handed bats start showing that they could, produce consistently, and you kind of neutralize Cash. You kind of neutralize Brendan Lawson a little bit when you have a lefty up there. I think lefties right now are a little bit of a challenge for us. So I'm going to go Friday. We take Friday, take 1 out of 3. If we could take 2 out of 3, that would be huge. But you got to at least take one. You got to at least take one, like you talked about the other day during the all kinds of weather podcasts.
Cannot get swept multiple times in SEC play. You can get away with one. I mean, we talked about it with Sully. You got swept by Auburn, but you overcame that. Florida won the SEC that year. They had the best record in the conference, tied with LSU, and then, of course, they beat them for the Natty. So they overcame that one. Can't happen twice, especially not this early in the year. And of course, Florida got swept 3 times in the first 4 series last year, and you saw what that did. If you take those 3 series that Florida got swept in and you just give Florida 2 of those games, not even a game in all 3 series, but 2 of those sweeps, I think it was Vandy, Georgia, and Tennessee, you convert 2 of those 3 to just losing 2 out of 3 and not all 3 games. Florida's hosting. They're 17-13 that way. They're hosting a regional. Maybe they're hosting a super. Those 2 games can make all the difference, especially in a league that's going to have a logjam like we talked about on all kinds of weather forecasts earlier in the week. There's going to be a logjam at the top of the SEC standings because Florida's at 3-3, only 1 game out of first place. So every single game is going to matter. You've got to get at least 1 of these 3. So we'll see, Adrian, but we both predict Florida to lose 2 out of 3, but not get swept.
No doubt. So, yeah, man. So with that, we'll wrap this bad boy up. Hopefully 1 out of 3 this weekend. Both of us are predicting that. 2 out of 3 would be a cherry on top. Again, want to thank Sully for coming on board today and giving us a quick little interview, man.
That was so cool. That was a life highlight. I'm not going to lie. That was a life highlight right there.
Very good. No doubt, man. Sully sounded good in good spirits and reiterated a lot about what we've been talking about. So hopefully this weekend we can just carry on with the momentum, man, and they'll be good to go. Until then, though, make sure you get on all these things, the YouTube, the Apple, the Spotify, follow, subscribe, hit them like buttons, hit the thumbs up and the 5-star reviews and all that stuff. Make sure you get on Neil, all kinds of weather, Gator Diamond Pod. Get on there with us, and we love the back and forth. And until then, man, hopefully next week we'll be talking about a good showing here in Arkansas. But until then, guys, we'll see you at the park, man. Take care.